Well, hello there. I'm here together with the EU delegation to Japan, Ambassador Mr. Dietmar Hans Schweisgut. Hello.
Hello, very pleased to be with you today.
Great to meet you. Thank you very much for your time. First up, I'm fascinated in your role and your position. How did you end up becoming an ambassador?
Well, it's not a short and easy story. As you might know, the diplomatic service of the European Union was created only 2 years ago when we had those treaty changes. Before that, I was an ambassador for my native country, Austria, for which I served in Brussels, at the European Union, in China and in Japan before. So I have a diplomatic career in my own national service before becoming an ambassador for the European Union.
And how is that? You must enjoy it. I mean, I presume your role has expanded and all of your countries have expanded.
That's true, and it's quite different. Even though I have served in Japan before as an ambassador, it's quite different to represent the European Union. We are in challenging times. We are stepping up our partnership with Japan, and the international environment has changed. So it is quite a challenge and a very interesting job indeed.
Tell us about your role here in Japan. What do you do here in Japan?
Well, I think one of the most fascinating things about being an ambassador is the kind of variety in your job. And I guess most people have only a very vague notion of what a diplomat is doing, thinking that we go to receptions holding champagne glasses every evening.
You do that sometimes.
And we do that sometimes, obviously, and it's nice, and it's also part of the networking. You meet colleagues, you meet other people, but this is something which is no longer dominating our lives, I'm afraid. So in addition to trying to advance an agenda to sort of step up bilateral relations, which we do in terms of preparing the ground for free trade negotiation with Japan, in terms of exchanging views and coordinating positions on a variety of international and global issues, from energy policy, climate change, to the security environment in Asia and other parts of the world. Obviously, there is also a bit of a public relations aspect to that. A lot of people do not really know all the aspects of what the European Union is all about. So I do give quite a lot of lectures, more so than I thought I would do, partly because there's a great interest to hear how we are dealing with the financial crisis in Europe. What's the future of the euro, the future of European integration? So there's quite a bit of demand, not only on myself but also on my colleagues here, to go out and actually talk to people. We have quite a number of outreach activities to academia, to universities, but also to high schools and also to media, of course. So it is, as I said, a job with a great deal of variety, so it never really gets boring.
I have to say a big congratulations to the EU. The Nobel Peace Prize 2012 just awarded to the European Union for 6 decades of work in advancing peace in Europe.
Well, thank you very much. Obviously, we are very proud of that, and I think it's a recognition of what the European Union has been doing in those 6 decades. In fostering peace and prosperity in Europe. And I think at the time when Europe is going through a rather difficult phase, it is also something, I think, which should make us reflect a bit on where we come from, what we have achieved, and where we will go from here, to make sure that it's seen increasingly as a common heritage, as part of our common identity.
Do you have a positive take on the future? You say, of course, we're in challenging times. How do you think the future of the EU and Europe in general is?
Well, I do have a positive take on the future. I'm not saying that we are out of this, and it will still require quite a bit of time. But I think what people sometimes underestimate is the political determination, the will to overcome this, and also, I think, the perception, which is now much more pervasive, that in order to achieve this, we need a stronger, more integrated Europe. So I think it's that we see the challenge in terms of what it takes to make this stronger in the medium and longer term, and not only to deal with the short-term effects of the crisis.
Okay, I want to know more about your personal life, your childhood. You're from Austria. Where did you grow up? Tell us about your childhood.
Well, I grew up in the western part of Austria, in Tyrol, in actually a small town surrounded by mountains. So I guess my childhood and first school years were rather quiet, involving a lot of outdoor life, skiing, hiking, mountaineering, sports, the usual thing. But I mean, if you look at it from Tokyo, other parts of the world, you would say it's deep backwater somewhere in the remote areas of the Austrian Alps.
Did you have any idea when you were a child that you'd one day end up being in Tokyo and being an ambassador?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I did have an interest already in senior high school in international affairs, and I was thinking about different options. I remember at one time when we had sort of specialists coming in, giving us advice on our future career prospects. One of them suggested I should become a journalist. I think that was a bit too ambitious, so I ended up a diplomat.
Can we swap? If you were to take a Japanese friend back to Austria, where would you go? Do you have a recommended spot?
Well, that's difficult because it's not a particularly big country, but I think small as it is, it has quite a bit of variety. So I spent my professional life in Austria and Vienna, which I think is an absolutely beautiful city. But most people would do this, so I would recommend not only to go to Vienna, but certainly also go to Salzburg. And how could I say otherwise than to say, please come also to Tyrol, I show you some of the most marvelous places in the Alps.
Wonderful, and we go skiing.
Right, yeah.
Okay, we need some food. Favorite national cuisine?
Well, look, I mean, this is always very complicated because I have been abroad for quite a while, so I have a lot of favorite dishes, not all of them belonging to the same national cuisine. The older I get, of course, the more I have a longing to enjoy some of the great dishes of Austrian cuisine, but I'm also very fond of Japanese cuisine and other European cuisine.
All right, very diplomatic answer.
Well, true. You know, I have a French chef here who's very good.
Good. Do you enjoy music? Do you listen to music? Do you have any favorite music?
I do, and I like classical music very much, and so I listen to music at home. I go to concerts, to the opera, including here in Tokyo, which is a wonderful place to be to enjoy classical music.
Of course, Austria has an
almost
incredible
as
heritage.
Good as Austria, yes. Yeah. No, we have. Austria has the image of being the country of music, and although it's a long time since I gave up playing an instrument, I still very much like to listen to music.
What did you play?
I played the trumpet.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that was in high school.
Someone might have to get you to do that again one day.
Well, let's see.
What's the one thing in the world you can't live without?
Oh, well, you know, there are politically correct and politically not so correct answers. So there again, I'm not sure I would say I wouldn't be able to live without music, or I wouldn't be able to live without wine, or I wouldn't be able to live without mountains. It's complicated, really. I think the one thing which is the most difficult to give up would be to imagine a life without your friends.
And finally, can you teach us a word or a phrase in your native tongue?
You know, sometimes when I look at the crisis in Europe and when people become really desperate, I'm reminded of a saying in Vienna when people say, "Die Lage ist hoffnungslos, aber nicht ernst," meaning the situation is hopeless but not serious. And you know, it's actually, of course, it's a paradoxon, but if you think about it, it contains not only fatalism but actually a lot of hope, and sort of an easygoing approach to life, saying that even in very serious, challenging circumstances, when people say it's absolutely hopeless, say, yeah, maybe hopeless, but life is going on anyway.
I love it. Could you give it to me one more time?
Certainly, die Lage ist hoffnungslos, aber nicht ernst.
On a positive note, it's been a real pleasure. The EU delegation to Japan Ambassador, Mr. Dietmar Hans Schweisgut. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be with you.